Oh my gosh. Oh, so good. I'm honestly shocked. Hey, what's up my friends? Welcome back to my kitchen. In this video, we're gonna do 7 brutal tests with 1 bonus test on the Emeril Lagasse toaster oven, but we're gonna push this thing to the limit. And we're gonna perform some tests that actually measure whether or not this piece of equipment, which is actually quite sizable, does it actually perform the way they say it performs? Or is it all hype? So here are the 7 tests and what you can look forward to learning about this unit before the end of this video. But the first test is a preheat test. How long does it take to preheat this oven compared to my conventional oven to 350 degrees? The next is temp accuracy and recovery. How well does it hold a temperature? The next is heat distribution and evenness. Are there hot spots and cold spots in this oven that we should be aware of? The next is the air fryer crunch. How quickly and accurate can we get that fine crunch? The next is baking. Is it a nice even bake and accurate to the time and temperatures that we're used to in our conventional oven? Then capacity. How much can this oven actually handle? And there's gonna be a bonus test inside that capacity test that I've actually never done before, and you're not gonna wanna miss it. And then finally, what's the experience of cleaning all of the components of this oven once you're done cooking? And really quick, before we dive in, I want you to know this video is not sponsored in any way. I spent my own money on this oven so that I could be fair and balanced in my test and my analysis and opinions of what I think it's like to use this oven. All right, my friends, first things first, let's get familiar with the oven, its features and accessories. All right, so the dimensions for this is 16 inches wide, including the handles about 16 inches deep, and the height on it is about 15 inches. It's an entirely stainless steel encasing, which I really appreciate. A couple of other standout features is you have these French doors. These French doors are awesome. They operate together, so you can operate them one-handed. Now, one thing to know about these French doors that have got me many times is that if you don't open them all the way, they slam shut. It also has a very simple control panel. So you have, of course, the twist knob for your selections, but you have the temperature button, the time button, start and pause button. You also have a fan button if you just want to run the fan. You have a light button. It has an internal light that's really helpful that you can turn off and turn on. It also turns on automatically as soon as you start it. It stays on for about 30 seconds. And then you have a cancel button in which you can cancel any cook that you're currently running. This oven also has more built-in presets than any other oven I've ever reviewed or used before. It has 24 presets. You don't have to use the presets either. If you want to set the certain temperature and the certain time, you can do that manually whenever you want to. Let's talk about the accessories that come with this oven. I'm gonna be using most of them, almost all of them except for one in this video. So the first one is you have a pretty standard air fry basket. Next is you have your standard oven rack. Next we have the rotisserie spit. You have some pins that actually clamp down onto the rotisserie spit. And then you also have your rotisserie retrieval tool. Finally, you have a grill or griddle. All right, so now that we have all of our bases established, we get to dive into our first test, which is the preheat test. Again, we're measuring how long it takes this oven to preheat to 350 degrees compared to my conventional kitchen oven. Because part of the benefit of having a smaller oven like this is that you don't have to heat up your entire big oven when you're cooking something smaller or you need it to happen quicker. So we've got a couple tools that we're working with here. I've got my handy dandy probe thermometer that we're gonna place inside the oven. Of course, I've got the stopwatch so we can time it. And in addition, as a benefit to you, I'm gonna measure the noise in decibels that comes off of the oven in its different modes. As soon as I hit start, we're going to start the timer. Ready, begin. Okay, so this is really interesting. So when you put it in the bake mode and set it to a temperature, there is a phase called preheat in the oven. Now, it indicated that the preheat was done at 3 minutes and 10 seconds, but my temperature probe only read 280 degrees where we had set the temperature to 350. We actually hit 350 on the probe at 3 minutes and 53 seconds, which is extremely fast. I can tell you right now from doing this test a multiple of times that my oven in the kitchen actually takes 7 minutes to preheat to 350 degrees. Also, our max decibels in bake mode was 69. Now, bake mode is typically the most quiet mode with these toaster ovens and air fryers, but still 69 decibels is pretty quiet. So for me, the preheat test, it's 2 thumbs up, it passes for sure. For this next test, we're measuring temperature accuracy and recovery. So we preheated the oven to 350 degrees. I left it on 350 degrees and I've set a timer because I want to measure the scale of temperatures that the oven goes through in a matter of 5 minutes. So when we preheated this oven, it immediately went up to 350. Now that it's been running for a few minutes, it's gone back down to 322. We're now at 1 minute and 30 seconds and the temperature went down to 311. That's a far cry from 350. All right, we're now at 3 minutes and the temperature is currently 338 and climbing. We're now at 4 minutes and the current temperature is 340 and it has stayed pretty consistently between 335 and 340 for the last minute and a half. Okay, we're at 5 minutes and the current temperature is 342. The last 2 minutes, it has stayed within about an 8 to 9 degree fluctuation between 340 and 351, which is actually pretty consistent and impressive for a smaller toaster oven like this. All right, the next part of this test is recovery. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna open these doors for 10 seconds, then I'm going to close them and I'm gonna start the timer to see how long it takes for us to get back up to 350. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 8, 9, 10. Let's close it. We went down to 300 degrees. Let's start it. Let's see how long it takes to get back to 350. All right, so we dropped to about 305 from a 10-second open door, and then it took us 1 minute and 14 seconds to recover the 350 degrees. Even though we did have that initial dip down to about 311 degrees at about minute 2 or so, after that, it was fairly consistent within 9 to 10 degrees of 350 degrees, and the recovery was really fast at 1 minute and 15 seconds to get back up to temperature. So for me, both in accuracy and recovery, this is a huge pass. 2 thumbs up. All right, the next test I call the heat map test. Basically what we're measuring is the consistency of heat inside the oven. We're testing for cold spots and hot spots. So what I have here is I have 6 pieces of bread laid out on the oven rack, and we're gonna set this thing to toast. And then we're gonna put it in the oven and let it toast. We're gonna keep an eye on it, let this toast get nice and browned. We're gonna pull it out and we're gonna see if there's any significant dark or light spots on the toast, and that will tell us if the heat is distributed evenly within the oven or if we should be aware that there's gonna be some inconsistencies in our cooks. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit start and we'll see how it turns out. One really quick thing while this toast is cooking that I forgot to point out on features. Here on this window, you'll notice that they actually name the rack number or the height of the rack to use for certain foods. Okay, so the cook is done. Let's go ahead and pull this out and see what this toast looks like. So I'm gonna slide it out. We wanna hold the position of the entire toast, and this is very, very interesting. Oh, we're sliding off here. But there is some drastic differences in the evenness of how this toast is cooked. So obviously we have the darkest piece here that's in the middle and the back of the oven. So that's gonna be our hottest spot of the oven. Then these ones are similar, but a little bit lighter, even a little bit lighter on the right side than the left side. The middle front is about the same as maybe the left side of the back. And then we have on the right side in the front, very light toast. And even within the single pieces of toast, we have a lot of variation. So this one is not even really toasted out here on the left, out here on the outside front corner, and then it's fairly dark on the inside corner of that piece of toast. So let's take a look at the underside as well. Now this is really interesting. So the inside of the backside toast is almost not toasted at all. were highly toasted on the backside of the inside, the backside of the inside of the backside of the toast. Yeah. It's like a wrap or something. So for my opinion, heat distribution and evenness is not very good. For me, this one is a fail. I will say though that the toast on it is fairly nice. It's very crunchy on the outside, and it did not dry the bread out on the inside. Okay, so the next test that I want to do with you is what I call the air fry crisp test. Now, of course, we're looking for that really good cook on an air fry where it leaves the food nice and crispy on the outside and still tender and juicy or moist on the inside. On the air fryer tray here, I have some real chicken, actual pieces of chicken nuggets that are breaded from Costco. We absolutely love these things. And I also have some lightly breaded French fries from Costco as well. Now, one of the other things that we're testing is speed, because let's be honest, one of the reasons that we love air fryers is because they can cook things quickly. Now, I do know that the air fryer that I use every single day, I could do this same cook in about 13 minutes and it would be perfect. So I'm gonna be comparing our time to that. In addition, I'm also gonna be measuring the noise in decibels of the air fryer mode of this oven. All right, so I'm gonna note the level of air fry. So it's got on level 5 right here, which is this rack slot right there. I'm gonna put our nuggets and fries in. I'm gonna make sure we're on air fry mode, and then I'm gonna up this temperature to 390 degrees, and I'm going to change our time to 13 minutes. All right, let's see how we do. Okay, so we're about at we're at 6 minutes now. We were just at 6:30. The cool thing about this oven is that it gives you a little beep when you're halfway through, just in case you want to go ahead and move some things around and shift things, which I'm gonna do right now. I'm gonna take these fries and just move them around a bit. I'm gonna go ahead and put them back in, and I'm gonna add just that time that I had them out. The alarm on this thing is way too much for me. It does 3 rounds of that beep, and it is quite piercing. We're rounding out the 13-minute air fry on these chicken nuggets and the French fries. I do want to mention that I did a noise measurement, and the loudest noise coming from this in the air fry mode was still 69 decibels. All right, let's check the crunch on this 13-minute air fry on these chicken nuggets and the consistency. So one thing that's interesting about chicken nuggets like these, not the paste that's been mushed together to look like animals or, you know, your favorite movie star or something, is that these vary in size a lot. So a good bake on these can cook them somewhat evenly, even though they're in very different shapes and sizes and thicknesses. So let's just take a look here. I want to go for a medium one, kind of from the middle, and I can already tell not much of a crunch at all. It's really soft still. I don't know if you can see that or not. There is a bit of a crunch out here. This part was more towards the edge like that. Still very moist, but the outside barely has any crunch to it. That breading is still soggy. All right, let's test our fries. Once again, fries vary in shape and size. So not so much shape, but definitely size. Here's a smaller fry, a little bit thinner. This should crunch up really, really nice, but it was towards the middle of the basket. Remember, I did turn these fries over halfway through the bake. That's a good fry. Good crunch on the outside, moist and tender on the inside. It didn't dry it out. That's actually a really excellent fry. Now let's try one that's more towards the center, maybe on the bottom. This one is definitely one of the biggest fries in the bunch. Let's test it out. A little bit bendy. I can already tell it's a little bit moist. Not much of a crunch to it at all. It's still, it breaks rather than bends. That's a good sign. I would say it's well on its way. My guess is it needed about another minute or two, and it would be the perfect fry. So here's my assessment on the air fry crunch. It takes a bit longer than other units that I've used. The nuggets need another good 6 minutes to really be crunchy on the outside, and my hope is that they would still be moist on the inside. But whenever you expose something to that much heat for that long, it does have a high likelihood of drying out. The fries are almost there. They're almost perfect. They need like a minute or two more, and it's a really good fry on the fries. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna pop these in for 5 more minutes at 390 on air fry mode, and we'll see if we can get them there. All right, my friends. So that's 18 minutes total on the air fry for these chicky nug nugs and French fries. And it's still a little bit soggy on the breading. That's really unfortunate. I think it's well on its way to a good fry, but man, I just can't imagine that it would have to take, 20 to 22 minutes to get some chicken nuggets done in the air fryer. Now, if capacity is more important to you than time and keeping that nice juicy moistness inside your food, then maybe this is the right air fryer for you. But for me, it's not. The next test that I want to do with you is the bake test. Now we have pre-made cookie dough from Trader Joe's ready to be baked. The instructions on the package is bake at 350 degrees for 10 to 14 minutes. That's a pretty big window, so we're gonna keep an eye on them. I'm gonna set the timer right in the middle at about 12 minutes. Now what I'm looking for in this test is very simple. How is the evenness of the bake? Is the bottom nice and brown, or is it really dark when we still have a raw top? I'm gonna go ahead and place it on bake mode. It already gives us 350 degrees, but it gives us 25 minutes. I'm gonna go ahead and take our time down to 12 minutes and hit start. All right, my friends, I've been keeping a close eye on these cookies, and we're still at about 9 minutes bake, and they're looking pretty good. I'm gonna pull them early right now because I think they're done. They're coming off the cookie sheet really easy. It is leaving some behind, so it's not total non-stick. By far, probably the most baked cookie is this one right here. And if we turn it over, I think it's got some great browning on the bottom. It's not overdone. There are some edges that are a little bit darker, but I think if we pop this open, it's still gooey, still warm, but it is baked, and it is a great bake on this cookie. I wanna take a look at this one really quick with you. This is the most uneven bake on these cookies. I just wanna show you, it's a bit dark over here, so that's gonna be really crunchy. And then it's really light over here. My guess is that this is still raw. In fact, as I touch it, I can tell that it is still raw. Let's break this open over here and see. And that's still raw, all through there, all through the middle of the cookie. Yet this is going to be overdone and baked through on the edges. The reason I use a pre-made mix in these videos rather than making my own dough for these cookies is because I want that consistency. This cookie is baked through, it's soft, it's got a nice little crunch to the bottom and a golden bake. Now the inconsistency on one of the cookies, maybe two of the cookies, is a bummer, but overall, the bake on this cookie is incredible. Oh my gosh, oh, so good. I am so impressed by the bake on these cookies. I could have remedied the inconsistency by just in the middle of the bake, taking the tray out and rotating it, which is something I do in my kitchen oven anyway. This is a huge win, passes the bake test for sure. All right, so our next two bakes are part of what I'm calling the capacity test. The first one is a nice pizza pie. Now pizza is unique because we have to consider both the size of the pizza and the thickness of the dough. So I'm gonna create the biggest pizza that I possibly can that will fit on the baking sheet of this oven. And on the thickness of the dough, I'm gonna go a little bit thicker than I usually do. I usually do a very thin crust pizza just because that's what I like in our family. But when I talk about capacity, it's like how much food can we make for a family, maybe a family of 3 to 5. Now the unique thing about this countertop oven compared to other countertop ovens that I've reviewed is that it has a specific pizza setting. So we get to see in real life how that pizza setting actually affects the bake on the pizza. I can't wait to get started. Let's get this thing rolled out. So here's how I make my favorite hot honey pepperoni pizza. I roll out the dough, put a little cornmeal on the pan, spread some tasty pizza sauce from Trader Joe's, add a good layer of mozzarella cheese, but not too much, some pepperonis, a bit of homegrown honey. We get this honey from our neighbors and love it. And finally, some crushed red pepper. All right, so when I initially turned it to the pizza setting, it originally had 19 minutes and 400 degrees. I'm gonna go with those presets. It's now preheating right now. Okay, so we're preheated. I'm gonna reference my pizza level right there. It's number 6. So I think, yeah, that's gonna be right here. So it's a lower level on the oven. Okay, so we've still got 7 minutes left on the preset bake for this pizza, but I can already see it's starting to show signs of being done-ish. I'm a little skeptical on it. So I'm gonna actually cancel this cook and we're gonna pull it out and take a look at it. Let's take a look. Some of the signs I was looking at, some of the coloring on the bottom side that I can see, some of the browning of the cheese. But I can already notice right now. So this is the back, this is the pizza where the back of the oven was. And on the crust, take a look, we have a lot of darkening and browning, almost blackening. And then this is where the front of the oven was, right here. I wanna see if we can turn this pizza over without ruining it. There we go. All right, take a look. So we've got really, again, backside of the oven right here, really dark through here, very light right here in the middle of the pizza. Very skeptical about this section, and then again more dark on the edge, but this is the front side. I believe these are the heating elements, literally those 2 heating element bars that are going across the pizza right there. All right, so let's look at the back side first. So again, very crunchy here on the outside, crust is well done. Let's see if we're doughy in the middle. You know what, it looks pretty well baked right here in the middle. This is a pretty well-baked dough right here. I'm honestly shocked. Despite the uneven coloring on the bottom of this pizza, it is very well cooked through. That middle bite was not doughy at all. Nice and fluffy, well baked. We had some bubbles in there. Even where the crust is a little bit more well done, it's still fantastic. It's soft on the inside. It's got a crunch on the outside, which I don't mind at all, actually kind of really like. I would have thought it would be doughy in the middle and crunchy and dry and hard on the outside, but it's absolutely not. All right, my friends, as the second part of the capacity test, I'm gonna do something I've never done before, and actually, if I'm being honest, I've been pretty intimidated by it. But we're gonna give it a go because it's such an essential feature of this oven, and that's the rotisserie feature. Now, I've got an entire bird right here, a chicken, and it's been sitting in a saltwater brine for quite some time. So I'm gonna prep this chicken to be roasted. We're gonna put it on the rotisserie spit. I can't wait, let's get it prepped. So to prep this chicken, I first dried it completely off as much as I could with a paper towel. Then I poured coarse salt into the cavity of the chicken and got it rubbed around inside. Stuffed it with some lemons and some garlic cloves. After that, I put a nice bit of avocado oil all over the chicken. Next, seasoning, salt, pepper, thyme, and basil. And I seasoned both sides. The next was to bind up the chicken. It's the first time I've ever done it. So I bound the legs and then wrapped up the wings to try to keep everything as compact as possible. Next step was to get the chicken on the spit. So I just run the spit rod through the chicken, put the spike ends on and crank those down. Now we're gonna turn this on to rotisserie, and the default's 375. Everything I've read says to go 400 degrees at 45 minutes. So I'm gonna turn this temperature up to 400 degrees. I'm gonna turn my time up to 45 minutes. We're gonna get this thing in and see how it goes. Oh, I'm nervous about this. Let's get the drip tray in. There's absolutely going to be some dripping. All right, next, going to get this in place. We're gonna hit start, and it starts spinning. All right, I'm gonna pause this and I'm actually gonna, I gotta reset this right here. Oh, this is more difficult than I thought it was gonna be. So what I gotta do is I gotta make sure I got the weight of the chicken a little bit more evenly dispersed. All right, that's better balanced. That looks pretty good. All right, so the roast just stopped. That was 45 minutes at 400 degrees. It was really strange. Right at the end here, it just started smoking, and I don't know why. Let's see. But it looks amazing. So we're gonna test the temperature right now. Got my rotisserie grabber tool here. Let's see how well this works. So basically, I should just be able to lift it off and pull it out, just like that. I grab a temperature as quickly as I can. All right, deep within the breast, it's only showing about 126, which is not good. That won't work. We're gonna have to get it back in and roast it for longer. Okay, we're rounding out another 15 minutes on this roasted chicken. That makes it a full hour cook time. I'm just gonna test the temperature here again. There's those doors. So we're gonna make sure we get those all the way open. We're gonna test this temperature. Put it right into the depths of the breast there. We're still at 147, so we've only gone up about 10 degrees in 15 minutes. Which means we gotta keep going. All right, so we just rounded out another 15 minutes. That's an hour and 15 minutes total, 156. So we're still 9 degrees away from this chicken being done. Okay, that's another 10 minutes. So this is a total of hour and 25 minutes. So let's just grab a quick temperature really quick. And we're at 165, 170, deep in the breast. I think we are done. So let's go ahead and pull the chicken out. It looks and smells incredible. You guys, I roasted a full chicken. All right, my friends, this smells amazing. It looks amazing. I'm so excited about this. This is like a huge unlock for me, I feel like. I'm just gonna cut into the breast here. Take a look, it still looks juicy, doesn't look dried out at all. Let's open this up. The skin is nice and crunchy. Let's try. That's incredible. That is so good. So on the capacity test with pizza and chicken and so much more that you can do with this oven because of its size, because of the varied settings, the rotisserie, spit, all of that sort of stuff, it's a huge thumbs up for me on capacity. All right, finally the cleaning test. This is a test to see how easy it is to get this thing clean when we're done using it and to keep it looking nice. What we're gonna do is we're gonna put a bit of honey over here on both the rack and the sheet. And we're gonna do the same thing with some honey. Just get it on there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this thing on bake once again, and 350 works just fine. I'm going to go ahead and start it up. And then we're just going to place this on the middle rack and let it bake for just a couple minutes, get it nice and hard. And then we'll see what it's like to get it clean. Okay, so I've let these things cool to the touch. The first test for cleaning that we're gonna do is just a simple scrape with a plastic spatula. Lots of non-stick cooking sheets that I've used and tested. If they're really good, I can bake barbecue sauce and honey on it, and I can just scrape it off with a plastic spatula. And I wanna see if that's the case with this rack and sheet. So first, let's look at the rack. There's still a little bit of sauce. A lot of it came off, but there's still a little bit sauce on the rack. I just wanna see how that comes off or doesn't, and it seems to come off pretty easy. I'm most concerned about the cooking sheet. So we've got the barbecue sauce here, we've got the honey here, and let's just take a look. So it does start to scrape off pretty easily. Now let's take a look at the honey. The honey is a different story. In fact, I should have baked this a little bit longer, honestly, because I didn't let the barbecue sauce burn as much as I should have. I'm just being transparent with you. I don't know if it would have stuck more if I would have baked it longer or not, but this honey that is burnt is not coming off with just a scrape. It is really, really on there. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm going to wash it and see what it takes to actually get the honey off and what it looks like when I'm done, so I can show you. Now, the other element that I wanna show you is this drip tray. Now, mind you, this oven was basically brand new when we started this video. There wasn't anything on the tray, and there's also some burnt things here. This one is just coming right off, but it looks like there was some oil underneath it. All of them look like they're coming right off, actually, with just a little bit of a scrape. All right, so I'm gonna talk about each of the components, and I put them in order of ease of cleaning. So the first one is the oven rack. It was super simple to clean. Everything came right off really quickly, no problems at all. That was great. Second is the air fryer basket. Remember, we just cooked the fries and the chicken nuggets in this, and there was a little bit of oil and grease, but with some dish soap and warm water, super easy to clean. No problems with this one. Next was the drip tray. Now, the drip tray was very simple to get all of the elements off, even the baked on elements, but I will say I did scrub this with dish soap, a scrub brush, and a plastic scrape brush, and there's still some staining that I don't think is ever gonna come off of this drip tray. So over time, this is gonna start to look like the bottom of an oven or drip tray, and which I'm okay with, but we'll try to keep this as clean as possible. It was really simple to clean and everything came off pretty easy. The most challenging was the baking sheet. I will say it wasn't as difficult as I thought it was gonna be. The honey had to soak for a minute. The barbecue sauce came right off. I can deal with staining over time. It's really if it's super difficult to clean, which it wasn't that difficult to clean at all. So cleaning on this for me, 2 thumbs up. I think it's very simple. It's a pass on that test. All right, my friends, thank you so much for watching the video. I hope it's been helpful in deciding whether or not the Lagasse is the right investment for you. If I missed something, if you have any corrections or suggestions of things you would like me to test in the future, please throw them in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe and like this video. Thank you so much for watching. And as always, happy cooking, my friends. Peace.